at hand, which is Hummings company. Everything else can be discussed later. Okay. Now, how the functional currency of crochet company should be determined. 5 marks का सब part है. Hummings Company is the parent company of a multinational listed group of companies. Hummings Company uses the dollar as its functional currency. Hummings Company acquired 80% of the equity shares of Crochet Company on 1st of Jan 2004 and 100% of Quaver on the same date. The group's current financial year is 31st of December 2004. The head office of Crochet Company is located in a country which uses dinar as its main currency. Its staff are located in a variety of locations. Consequently, half of their employees are paid in dinar and the other half are paid in currency of grommets. हैरी पॉटर की currency type लगता है. Crochet Company has a high degree of autonomy and is not reliant on finance from Hummings Company, nor do sales to Hummings Company make up a significant proportion of their income. Why is this line given to you? Crochet Company is a subsidiary of Hummings Company. I think if you remember the first IAS 21 question that we had read, वहां पे था कि usually the currency of the holding company, functional currency of holding, can become the functional currency of subsidiary. Because subsidiary controls the holding, but if the subsidiary is not reliant on the holding company, like in that question also it wasn't reliant, similarly in this question also it does not depend on the holding company. So for that reason and that reason alone, can we say that the functional currency of the holding need not necessarily be the functional currency of the subsidiary. All of its sales and purchases are invoiced in grommets, and therefore Crochet Company raises most of its finance in grommets. Cash receipts are retained in both grommets and dinar. Crochet Company does not own a dollar bank account. Crochet Company is required by law to pay tax on its profits in dinar. ठीक है? अब, if you want to determine what is a functional currency, how will you do that? There are certain parameters, right? Can
Yes,
you?
The currency which determines the selling price of goods or services.
Okay.
The second was the currency of the country, based on which the regulations and competitive forces determine the selling price.
Hmm.
And the third one will be the currency which influences the labor cost, material cost, and other production costs.
And if these factors are inconclusive, then
Then the cost of raising, like the currency in which the finance is being raised, even, and the next would be the currency in which the operating profits are retained.
okay.
cash receipts are written, no, not operating profits.
Sorry, cash receipts are retained.
Okay, fair enough. And if the primary conditions don't work, only then you go to the secondary conditions, right? Now,
Yes,
in
sir.
determining functional currency, Crochet should consider the currency which mainly influences the sale price of goods and services, yeah, labor cost. Now tell me, which currency out of dinar, dollar, grommets?
Dollar is not there for sure because of the subsidiaries book has an autonomy from its holding company.
Okay.
For primary also we cannot do because like half of their currency of say from sales are retained in dinar as well as grommets.
Go to the
Secondary conditions.
later. Talk about the primary conditions.
Sir,
We
like
have to
because
do it in the same way as we did the acquire. We have to put a box and tick which factor has to move.
Which currency influences the sale price of goods and services?
Grommets.
Grommets.
Which currency influences
No.
the labor cost and other cost?
Both dinar and
Staff is
grommet
in
both.
dinar and purchases are in grommets.
So 50-50?
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So I think we are leaning more in favor of grommet so far, less in favor of dinar. Correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
Um, have they raised finance in a particular currency?
Yes, sir. Grommets.
Yes, grommets.
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 So does everything point towards making grommets your functional currency?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So That can be, a very simple determination. But yes, do not forget to break the link between holding and subsidiary. Huh? You will. So saying that this company is independent and does not depend on the holding company for determination of functional currency, that point will be relevant for you. Okay. So make sure that you answer that part properly after taking into consideration all of these points. ठीक है, वो miss out मत करना, बाकी I don't see any challenge anywhere. ठीक है, चलो, let's move on to the second part of the question. So this was a 5 mark subpart on IAS 21. This has got nothing to do with consolidation. ठीक है, ये देखो. How crochet companies' customer contracts should be accounted for in the consolidated financial statements of Hummings Company, which are presented in dollar for the year ended 31st of December 2004. How crochet companies' customer contract should be accounted for in consolidated financial statements of Hummings Company. ठीक है. Functional currency we saw. Now let's read this. Roshan, I think you are one of those few who is awake right now, so you can read it. Please go ahead.
Means Humming Company paid cash of 24 million for 80% holding in Crockett Co. on January 1st, 20x4. Humming Company has a policy of measuring non-controlling interest at fair value. The fair value of non-controlling interest in Crockett Co. on 1st Jan 20x4 was 6 million. Since Crockett Co. has a range of net assets held domestically and overseas, the fair value of net assets at acquisition were determined in their local currency. Hence, the fair value of some assets are determined in dinars and other in grommets. The total fair value of the net assets denominated in grommets at 1st January 20x4 was 43 million grommets. The total fair value of net assets denominated in dinars at 1st January 20x4 was 50 million dinars. Excluding from these fair values are several contracts with customers of Crockett Co. These contractual relationships prohibits the customer of Crockett Co. from obtaining services from any of the main competitors of Crockett Co. They have estimated the fair value at Jan 1st 20x4 of 15 million grommets. At 31st December 20x4, it was decided to impair the goodwill by 30%.
Okay.
Following this, the sum.
So,
You want me to read more?
yeah, wait. Let's see if we need this at all. ठीक है. Hummings paid blah 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 NCI अभी काम का नहीं है. Since Crochet has a range of net assets held domestically and overseas, the fair values of net assets at acquisition were determined in their local currency. Hence, fair value of some assets have been determined in dinars and others in grommets. The total fair value of the net assets denominated in grommets was 43 million grommets. The total fair value of net assets denominated in dinars was 50 million dinar. Excluded from these fair values are several contracts with the customers of Crochet Company. These contractual relationships prohibit the customers of Crochet Company from obtaining services from any of the main competitors of Crochet. They have an estimated fair value of 15 million grommets. Now, what kind of situation are we talking about? See, when one company acquires another company, all the identifiable net assets of the investee company have to be included at fair value in the net asset calculation. So, and to be identifiable, it must be capable of being bought or sold separately, or it must arise from some sort of a contractual or legal relationship. Okay. And you will need to calculate the fair value. Okay. Now, what do these contracts do? These contracts, they provide Crochet Company with a right to prevent their customers from obtaining goods and services from their competitors. Correct. So you cannot buy it from anyone else. You will only be able to buy it from us. Right. And is it so? This is something which arises from a legal relationship. See, to be an identifiable item, it is not necessary. One way to identify an identifiable item is whether it can be bought or sold separately. Correct? That is the first way to identify. The second way to identify an identifiable item is whether it arises out of a legal or a contractual relationship. Here, the contract, where is this written that you cannot obtain goods and services from competitors? It is written in the legal contract between the two entities. So it arises from a legal or a contractual relationship. So it should be recognized as a separate intangible asset. The condition is fulfilled. Now, identifiable net assets should be recognized at their fair value at the acquisition date. Correct? What is the fair value? 15 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is 15 million grommets on which date?
1st of
First
January.
1st of Jan
January.
2004. What is the rate on 1st of Jan 2004? $1 equal to 8 grommets. So 15 divided by 8. Should that give us our answer?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, I think we have spent enough time with the words identifiable, with the words fair value, for us to know कि यार, whenever we are talking about these kind of relationships, what is important is कि देखो, अभी we are at a stage where the word identifiable is not just capable of being bought or sold separately. ये वाला जो aspect है, that aspect should also factor into our discussion. When you are writing the answer, first of all, prove that it is an identifiable asset. Because if it is not an identifiable asset, then you don't really need to spend any time in estimating the fair value. अगर identifiable item नहीं है तो fair value क्यों निकाल रहे हो ना? That is a waste of time. ठीक है. Now, in case of these contracts, we proved कि भाई ये this is the rate and then we converted that using an appropriate exchange rate. ठीक है. Now you should also understand कि यार these are contracts which basically prevent the customer from buying goods and services from someone else. Correct. That is the very nature of the contract. So, in this situation, what happens is when you are consolidating that, these are intangible assets. Correct. Up intangible asset, है तो you will have to find out how many years are left on the contract. That will become the remaining useful life. है ना? How many years are remaining on the contract? That will give rise to your calculation of remaining useful life, and you will have to amortize. You are up because this is an intangible asset. Through this contract, you are stopping the other entity from entering into a contract with other parties. Correct. आप customer को रोक रहे हो and this is going to provide you future economic benefits. That future economic benefit is basically normal sale तो जो हो रहा है वो हो रहा है. We are not talking about that. When you prevent your customer from interacting with a third party, these are the benefits that you get. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So this is how the answer has to be framed. Now, if you, for some reason, if you forget to talk about the amortization bit, you will lose some marks there. But more or less, if it's a 4-mark question, you can be assured of 2.5 marks to 3 marks if you write everything else. If you write amortization, then you will get full 4 marks on this question. ठीक है, एक बार have a look. This question is more of a conceptual question, less of a calculation intense question, right? Have a look once. ठीक है. Who said that this is a calculation heavy paper? Barely. ठीक है. चलो. A calculation of the goodwill on acquisition of Crochet Company in Gromets and how it would be accounted for in the consolidated statement of financial position of Hummings at 31st of December 2004 after translation. Include a brief explanation and calculation of how the impairment and exchange difference on goodwill will impact on the consolidated financial statements. ठीक है. Can you try this? Calculation of goodwill on acquisition of Crochet in Gromets first. Can we try that?
Yes.
ठीक है. Fair value of consideration paid. Add NCI fair value at date of acquisition minus fair value of net assets at date of acquisition. You will get goodwill and then you will of course impairment होगा तो वो देखना.
सर एक्सचेंज रेट के लिए वहां पे
हाँ. लगे तो लिख लो exchange rate quickly. Quickly write it down. हो गया?
Yes, sir.
चलो, Manav, I have sent you a message. Please check. This is B2, calculation of goodwill. Let me write down the formula first. Fair value of consideration paid. Add fair value of NCI on acquisition date less fair value of net assets of subsidiary at acquisition date.
सर मुझे भेजा था ना,
हाँ, तुझे ही भेजा था.
आया तो नहीं.
Goodwill at acquisition date. अरे इधर मीटिंग चैट में भेजा है. Less impairment. You will get goodwill at reporting date. Goodwill at reporting date ही पूछा है कि कौन सा डेट पूछा है? On 31st of December 2004. ठीक है. Hummings paid $24 million for 80% holding in Crochet Company. If you remember the steps that I had given you for foreign subsidiary, goodwill first of all has to be calculated in the currency
एवरेज रेट.
subsidiary company, right? Subsidiary के currency में निकालना है goodwill and then we have to translate it later. Am I right or am I saying it incorrectly?
नो सर, करेक्ट.
Correct.
ठीक है. So here what I'm going to do is fair value of consideration paid $24 million and $1 equal to 8 grommets. So $24 million into 8 grommets per dollar. 192. ठीक है. Let's see if throughout अपने को यही रेट लगाना है, अलग रेट लगाना है. Let's see. Fair value of NCI at acquisition date. Hummings company
Eight.
has a policy of measuring non-controlling interest at fair value. Fair value of non-controlling interest in Crochet company was 6 million. ठीक है. 6 million into 8 हो जाएगा 48. करेक्ट. सिक्स इंटू 8 48. फेयर वैल्यू ऑफ नेट असेट्स ऑफ सब्सिडियरी एट एक्विजिशन डेट. ठीक है. अब ये निकालना पड़ेगा. डू वी हैव द नंबर गिवन टू अस डायरेक्टली कि कुछ और करके दिया है?
एक ग्रोमेट में, एक दिनार में, तो
एक
दिनार में करना.
ग्रोमेट्स में है, एक दिनार में है, एंड वी नीड एवरीथिंग इन ग्रोमेट्स. करेक्ट. The total value of net assets denominated in grommets was 43 million. The total fair value of net assets denominated in dinar was 50 million on 1st of Jan. ठीक है. And 1 dinar is equal to 2 grommets. तो 50 million into 2 करना पड़ेगा if I'm not wrong. कि गलत है?
नहीं, सही है.
ठीक है सर.
सही है. आप बोल रहे हो तो होगा सही, है ना? So 43 million grommets plus 50 million dinar into 2 grommets per dinar. There is one more thing. We have just now discovered that there are contracts worth 15 million grommets that have to be included in the net assets. है ना? ये asset को आपको you have to include it at its fair value. So 15 million for contracts. Make sense? So how much will this be? This will be 43 plus 50 into 2 plus 15. हो जाएगा 158. What is goodwill at acquisition date? 82. ठीक है. This is in grommets. Correct. अब अल्टीमेटली अच्छा, इसका एक इम्पेयरमेंट लॉस का अगर कुछ होगा तो वो भी देख लेते हैं, एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स वील डू द रीट्रांसलेशन लेटर। इम्पेयरमेंट लॉस है 30%, 24.6. Goodwill at reporting date is 57.4. Now, if I have to convert this, okay, I will say convert using opening rate. इसको I will say convert using average rate. इसको I will say convert using closing rate, है ना? Do we have the opening rate?
Yes, sir.
And what are we supposed to convert this into?
Dollars.
डॉलर्स।
dollar.
By dollar, because that is the currency of the holding company.
होल्डिंग।
ठीक है, तो ये 1 million इक्वल टू 8 ग्रामेट है, सॉरी $1 इक्वल टू 8 ग्रामेट, $1 इक्वल टू 8 ग्रामेट्स। एवरेज रेट कितना है? हैव दे गिवन इट एनीवेयर?
No, sir.
No,
नो।
sir.
सो देन व्हाट शुड वी डू?
Opening plus
Average
closing
between
divided by
opening
2.
and
वील हैव टू डू, फिर आपको 31 का ही देन यू शुड यूज इन दैट केस इफ इट इज नॉट गिवन, और यू कुड यूज द एवरेज रेट बाय योरसेल्फ, आई मीन दोनों अलाउड है। बट सी एवरेज रेट ना is not really opening plus closing by 2. In reality, it is the average of all the 365 days ka rate. Uska average you take, right? So ideally, that should be the average. So in case nothing is given to you, you have two options. Either you could do opening plus closing by 2, which is ideally not right, or you could simply use the closing rate for conversion. Even that is okay. Okay. Here we'll use the closing rate. I'll give you a note here. When average exchange rate is not given, we have two options. What is that? Use closing rate or use average rate by doing opening plus closing by 2. Okay. So here we'll use the, in this question, we will use closing rate. एग्जाम में लिख देना कि both options are there and we are using this particular option. Here I'm going to put a star mark so that you can correlate it with this. By 8 by 7. Calculated value should be, but it is, so in your books of accounts, the calculated value is 6.74, but if you convert it using the closing rate, it becomes 8.20. So there is foreign exchange gain on translation of goodwill. This is 8.2 minus 6.74, 1.46. 8.20 minus 6.74. ठीक है? Make sense?
yes, sir.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, the calculation. Just keep your wits about yourself. Even if you do opening plus closing by 2, you will not lose marks. Okay? So just keep your head in the right space. You should be able to tackle this. अब next question क्या है? How waiver should be accounted for in consolidated financial statements? On 1st of Jan, Hummings acquired a 100% equity interest in Quaver. Hummings company made the acquisition with the intention to sell and therefore did not wish to have an active involvement in the business of Quaver. Hummings immediately began to seek a buyer for Quaver and felt that the sale would be completed by 31st October at the latest. A buyer for Quaver was located in August 2004, but due to an unforeseen legal dispute over a contingent liability disclosed in Quaver Company's financials, the sale had not yet been finalized as at 31st of December 2004. The sale is expected to be completed in early 2005. This is a subsidiary acquired with an intention to resell. क्या करेंगे?
Asset held at uh, asset held with an
IFRS 5,
intention to
sir.
sell.
So it will
IFRS
be
5.
still classified as asset held for resale.
Asset held for sale या यहाँ पे disposal group बन जाएगा, right?
Disposal group, हाँ.
Yes, sir.
It puts Now the asset must be available for sale in its present condition. Sale must be highly probable. It is there. It is expected to be completed within 12 months. You should be looking for sale at a reasonable price. The plan should be on to locate a buyer, all of that. ठीक है. The sale has not taken place within 12 months of acquisition. But an exception is permitted where the sale is deemed to be highly probable, but the delay is because of reasons beyond the control of the company. यहाँ पे why is the delay intentional or is it happening because of reasons beyond the company's control?
Beyond the company's control.
Beyond the
Beyond
company's
control.
Beyond the
Beyond the
company's control.
company's
unforeseen
control.
legal.
So it should be classified as a disposal group held for sale. है ना? Initially measure it at fair value less cost to sell, and any change in fair value less cost to sell should be routed through consolidated P&L, right? Is the management committed to sell the company?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
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 Yes. So how will you show that? It should be shown as in accordance with IFRS 5. It should be the results should be presented as discontinued operations in consolidated P&L. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And it should be shown like a separate line item. But when you say that it has to be shown as, मतलब as a discontinued operation, what we are saying is कि भाई continued operation से अलग show it as a single line item. You are not expected to do anything else apart from that. अब ऐसा क्वेश्चन जब आता है पेपर में, इफ यू हैव योर विट्स अबाउट योर सेल्फ ना, अगर आपका थोड़ा सा भी इफ यू आर एबल टू रिकलेक्ट थिंग्स, आंसरिंग अ क्वेश्चन लाइक दिस should not be a problem. Just ensure कि whenever you are attempting these questions, एक make sure that you are giving reference to the accounting standards. Uh, I don't know how many of you, some of you have gotten the feedback. I think one of the points that I have been highlighting again and again is that, you are not doing adequate referencing of accounting standards. So वो एक चीज आपको याद रखना है. You have to show the calculations clearly, if at all there are calculations. You have to explain the accounting treatment, saying that, it should be shown as a discontinued operation is okay. But what is that showing it as a discontinued operation? It has to be shown as a separate line item. Correct? तो वो पार्ट आपको मेंशन करना पड़ेगा. चलो. Have a quick look at the solution, at the explanation. See, देखो, this part is important. You will write it should be presented as a discontinued operation. ये ठीक है. And so its earnings for the year must be disclosed separately in the consolidated statement of प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस. ये लाइन बताना कि यार उसको सेपरेट लाइन आइटम करके बताना है. दिस इज व्हाट विल फेच यू द फुल मार्क्स इन द क्वेश्चन. जस्ट राइटिंग दैट इट शुड बी अ डिसकंटिन्यूड ऑपरेशन इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी इनफ. ठीक है. People who are submitting the tests, all of them, you will know ki where I have deducted marks, where I have told you ki this is the area of improvement. ठीक है. And the good thing about SBR is it's very, very tangible, I would like to believe.
मतलब sir, tangible?
Tangible, oh God, not tangible non-current assets. मतलब it's not vague. ये बहुत पढ़ाई कर रहा है यार अभी. इसको टच करना है.
सर नहीं कर रहा हूँ उतना पढ़ाई सर.
नहीं, बट कर रहा है तो अच्छी बात है ना. देयर इज नथिंग टू बी अशेम्ड ऑफ.
नहीं लाइक वर्क बैलेंस थोड़ा लाइक डिफिकल्ट हो रहा है.
नहीं, बट आई एम श्योर यू विल बी एबल टू टैकल.
So, sir, I wanted to ask you because like you gave me a feedback saying that with IFRS when you're referencing, you
Hmm.
should also link, like for example, in IFRS 16, you have written B34, B35, B32, vice versa.
That's okay. You don't have to do that. Just at least standard number likhna. Please write the standard number. Baki, if you don't, it's okay. It's not
हाँ
in.
सर, इवन आई गॉट दैट फीडबैक, वो पैरा
Yeah, yeah,
नंबर पे।
yeah. But it's not. At least write the standard number. But आप लोगों ने लिखा है. I'm not questioning the validity of that. You guys have done it. That's not. मतलब कुछ कंसर्न नहीं है उसमें मुझे. ठीक है, ये पढ़ लो quickly. Then we'll do the last part of the question.
Hmm.
सर
Done.
आई नीड टू आस्क यू अबाउट द सस्टेनेबिलिटी पार्ट। सर उसमें जो एक चार्ट था पूरा, लाइक बहुत बड़ा सा चार्ट नहीं था जिसमें वो कोर
Mm-hmm.
कंटेंट्स ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी वगैरह भी था, गवर्नेंस एंड स्ट्रेटेजी, वो पूरा चार्ट से याद करना है।
Learn, see, when I say learn, I don't mean learn word for word. Just understand what the contents are. So, if you are asked a question on that, you should be able to answer. That chart, in a way, covers everything in sustainability.
दैट्स व्हाई आई आस्क्ड यू।
It covers almost everything. So, you can take that as the base.
थैंक यू।
Done? Very good. Last part. A calculation and discussion of how bonds should be accounted for. Now, suddenly, this is financial instruments, 11 marks. ऐसे मुझे लग रहा है. But never judge a question by the requirement. Read the data. Only then you will understand. On 31st of December, Hummings company purchased 10 million 5% bonds in staff company at par. The bonds are repayable they are repayable on 31st of December 2006. Effective interest rate is 8%. Hummings company business model is to collect contractual cash flows over the life of the asset. At 31st of December 2003, bonds were considered to be low risk, and as a result, 12-month expected credit losses are expected to be 10,000. On 31st of December, staff company paid the coupon interest. However, at that date, the risk associated with the bonds were deemed to have increased significantly. The present value of the cash shortfalls arising on the bond in the year 31st of December 2005 is 462,963 and probability of default is 3%. The present value of cash shortfalls arising on default in the year ended 31st December 2006 is 68,58,710 and probability of default is 5%. Now where the credit risk has increased significantly, what you should do is instead of 12-month expected credit losses, now you should go for lifetime expected credit losses. Correct? Okay.
यस सर।
Tell me so you have what information is available with you? You have the uh, present value of the default, correct? You don't have to calculate present value. Present value is given, and you also have the probability of default. Can you calculate the expected value of the loss, credit loss that can take place? बताओ मुझे. My God, it is taking so much time to multiply that with a percent and get the answer.
No, sir. Like 356, 824.
कितना आया? 356, 8.
24.
24.
यस सर।
ही लड़का है जो कैलकुलेशन करता है, बाकी के पता नहीं क्या कर रहे हैं। ठीक है। So initially the expected credit loss was expected to be 10,000. Now see, this is a debt instrument which the entity intends to hold until maturity and collect the contractual cash flows. So you should be using the amortized cost method. Correct. So mention that initial recognition should happen at fair value. So fair value of the bond is the amount that you paid to purchase the bond. Guys, one moment. Huh? Initial recognition at fair value, which is the amount that you paid. You paid 10 million, so account it at that. Okay. Then on acquisition of bonds, at that time, this is a low risk item. Okay. And on the balance sheet date also, the risk is low. So 31st of December 2004 ko you will account for 12-month expected credit loss. You will recognize an allowance for losses, P&L account debit to allowance for receivables or allowance for losses. ये एंट्री आप करेंगे and you will show it in the balance sheet at the net value of 10 million minus 10,000. उतने में रिकॉर्ड होगा. करेक्ट. दिस इज ऑन 31st of December 2003. डू यू अग्री? अब ये जो लॉस है ये कहाँ जाएगा? दिस विल गो टू द इन्वेस्टिंग पार्ट ऑफ P&L account, right? Abhi P&L mein there are three parts: operating, investing, and financing. This will go to the investment part of P&L. Now, when you were asking me, here, what type of question can be asked? This is one type of question. Matlab, this is what will enhance the quality of your answer. कि यार आपको ये कहाँ पे लिखना है? You have to do that in your consolidated P&L. But where in the consolidated P&L? It is in the investing section of consolidated P&L. ठीक है. And because you are, so that is the first part of the answer. ठीक है. अब second part of the answer, let's try to understand. We have arrived at 31st of December 2003, which is the date on which the bond was purchased. ठीक है. अब let's move on to the next date in our journey. 31st of December 2003 को परचेस किया. वी सेड की लॉस अलाउंस ऑफ 10,000 क्रिएट करो. 10 million minus 10,000, जो भी वैल्यू आएगा राइट इट एट दैट. अब 31st of December 2004 को क्या होगा? Interest income at, how should you recognize interest income?
Effective rate of
Effective
interest.
interest rate of 8%, है ना? Where should it go? See, this is not an asset which is credit impaired. तो आप gross amount पे you will calculate
Gross amount.
interest, है ना? 10 million into 8%, whatever the value is, it will be your interest income in the P&L account. What is the coupon rate? 5%.
5%.
So can you calculate the value at 31st of December 2004 with before any impairment losses? Yes, you can. 10 million plus 8% का value minus 5% का value. ठीक है. Now, at 31st of December 2004, there has been a significant increase in credit risk, which means you have to account for lifetime expected credit losses. Right now it is 10,000. You believe that now it's going to be 356,824. So what is the difference? The difference is 346,824. इतना और अलाउंस आपको क्रिएट करना पड़ेगा टू कंसिडर लाइफ टाइम एक्सपेक्टेड क्रेडिट लॉसेस. ठीक है. सो यू विल डेबिट P&L एंड यू विल क्रेडिट द लॉस अलाउंस, है ना? एंड देन यू विल शो इट एट द नेट अमाउंट इन द कंसोलिडेटेड बैलेंस शीट. इतना ही करना है आपको. दे हैव बेसिकली आस्क्ड यू द अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर आइटम एंड बेसिकली यू आर ट्रेसिंग द एंटायर जर्नी. ठीक है. So you are tracing the journey right from the date of acquisition, which is 31st of December 2004, and you are going up to which date? You are going up to 31st of, sorry, from 31st of December 2003, you are going right up to 31st of December 2004. ठीक है. So this is the basic expectation. But हाँ, यहाँ पे आपको फिर सारा कुछ you will have to describe that कि you know how exactly is the calculation done. फिर वो आपका जो when you are showing expected credit loss तो उसका calculation कैसे आ रहा है. So all of these aspects you will have to consider when you are solving the question. Of course you will have to show the calculation for the present value, है ना, जो present value into 3%, present value into 4%, that you have to do. But apart from that the question is pretty straightforward. But yes, this was asked for 11 marks, which means now you know कि यार financial instruments पे आया तो एकदम 11 marks का भी आ सकता है. And this wasn't difficult. इसमें you didn't have to do any complex calculations, you just had to describe the accounting treatment. अब when you write this answer, these aspects do make a lot of difference. जैसे you mention कि यार business model is to do this, hence you should use the amortized cost approach. फिर एक एक करके आपने describe किया, then you explain how you arrived at the closing value before considering any impairment issues. So all of these points will make a difference, and writing it in detail is what will fetch you your marks. When you say that it has to be written in the investing part of P&L, that means they are aware कि you are aware of the requirements of the standard. ठीक है, so make sure that you follow that. The reason I took up this question, see, this was not a question based on consolidated balance sheet where you had to account for the foreign subsidiary. But एक IAS 21 का discussion था, then subsidiary acquired with an intention to sale का discussion था, then that contract fair value का discussion था, and थोड़ा सा financial instruments था, which is why I decided to take up this question. ठीक है, this, I mean, this will give you one more aspect of the, एक और aspect of revision आपका यहाँ पे gets covered. ठीक है, the next question that I have for you, again open your exam kit. There is a question called Carby's company. ठीक है, start reading that question. I'll give you 10 minutes because I want you to be prepared with some of the answers and calculations, and then of course we'll do it together. ठीक है, which question? Carby's company. ठीक है, I'll be back in 10 minutes and then we can continue. I'm
Sir,
writing
one,
it in the
I
chat.
have one. Sir,
Bo-
1 second, I have query.
बोलो.
This bond, should we show it at net value or like provision separate? We have to show it.
It provision is never shown. See, एक तो first of all, this is not a provision. Please get that very clear. This is an allowance for loss. Why is it not a provision? It does not fulfill any of the conditions given in IAS 37 for calling it a provision. आपको याद है when we were doing that, we called it allowance for receivables, correct? This is not a provision, and this is basically an amount or an allowance for diminution in the value of asset. It always has to be shown as a reduction from the asset value, net value to be shown in the outer column. Never show it as a provision because it is not a provision.
Okay, sir. Okay, understood.
चलो, अब कार्बीज कंपनी स्टार्ट करो, स्टार्ट रीडिंग.